Hi there, I'm Laura and welcome to my channel, Aquamarine18. I am here this morning. It's morning where I am and very, very rainy, so if you hear background noise, that's what it is. With a bit of a surprise unboxing and walkthrough, and it's a surprise even to me because I forgot that I even ordered this, and I ordered it ages ago. And you will know from the title of this video that it is the Wild Unknown Archetypes deck and guidebook by Krans. So this is an oracle deck, and folks who have seen my channel and maybe watched some of my videos about my decks might know that I love Krans's Wild Unknown Animal Spirit deck, which is an oracle deck as well, but that I don't own the very, very popular Wild Unknown Tarot. I've never owned it. There are times when I feel a little bit tempted, but overall I haven't felt particularly called to the Wild Unknown Tarot, but I'm interested in archetypes, and I'm interested in Carl Jung's work, where most of the ideas about archetypes come from. I haven't read a lot of it. I've read some other psychoanalysts a bit more, but I'm interested in learning more about that. So this deck appealed to me for that reason, and I liked the very few cards that I had seen online. So I put in a pre-order. It would have been months and months and months ago now on Amazon, and it just shipped out, and it was released, I believe, yesterday. So it arrived at my door yesterday, but I was out with my family and at work yesterday, so I haven't gotten to open it until today. So I thought that I would open it and share a bit of a first impressions and a walkthrough of the deck. And I'm looking forward to it. Yeah. So, caffeinating. I mentioned it's morning. Morning means I'm downing a lot of caffeine, getting ready for the day. So I ripped the plastic just to make this moment easier on film, but it is a first impressions and first walkthrough for me. So what we have, it's published by Harper One, an imprint of HarperCollins publisher, which I believe is the one that I believe that HarperCollins and Harper One is the publisher that the mass market edition of the Wild Unknown and those decks are on. So I'm expecting something similar. My Wild Unknown Animal Spirit Oracle deck I bought before it went mass market, just before. I found this, I think it's a second edition, indie edition at a shop, so I snatched that up when I had the chance. But I felt I've seen the cardstock and the packaging of the mass market Wild Unknown, and I'm imagining maybe this is the same. But this is a round oracle deck, and I have one round tarot deck, as folks know. I have the Gorgon's Tarot, and I have a kind of oval deck, the Luminous Void Tarot, but I don't have any, we'll say, unusually shaped oracle decks. So this appealed to me for that reason. So on the back, we have some text, and a very few of the cards there are shown. So the text says, "Welcome to the Wild Unknown Archetypes. You will find within 78 circular cards in a round box." I'm curious to see the round box. "Lavishly illustrated 224-page guidebook." That's good. With it being about archetypes, I was hoping for a substantial guidebook, so I'm looking forward to that. "From the wellspring of the collective unconscious emerge images that appear in the dreams of every culture, illuminating our multiplicity and uniting us in the endless story of humanity. These are archetypes. Their limitless potential is yours to behold as you travel to the realm of dreams, visions, and myth. May you always be on the inner quest. ... And then there's just some cards there on the back. I like this packaging. It feels nice. This box is really sturdy and protective, which is nice. So it has this kind of sleeve that comes off. This will probably honestly live in the cupboard of two big boxes, depending on how big these cards are. So the box inside has a picture of a gem there, and on the back there's a tail going into this flap. So there's a magnetic box, and we have an arrow here, I guess telling us where the magnet is or to open. So it pops open, and the inside of the flap says accept all, reject none, with some hands there. And there's a lifting ribbon, which is a good touch to include, which lifts out the guidebook. It feels good. It really, it smells like new deck, new mass market deck. It has that, it's like new car smell. It has that kind of printing smell. I don't know. So I'll put the book there for a second. I will say, first of all, this deck has a lot of packaging. It's nice. I like it. It's well protected, which I appreciate, but like it's a lot of packaging. So inside, underneath the guidebook and the ribbon, we get this round. So that comes out of this well. And I'm going to put this over here. I'm running out of space because there's so much packaging. Just the environmental, impetus in me does not love that there is in some way, like there's like 3 boxes. There's a sleeve and a big box and a small box. Don't love that. But looking at this round box, I can see why. You can see that it's kind of folded around. The Wild Unknown Archetypes, Kim Krans. And this is actually not bad. It's fairly sturdy, and it just has some colors there and the publisher's name on the back. This would be a hard thing, though, to just sell it like this, right? It obviously, to get the guidebook to go with it, it would have to be in this larger box. Okay, so I'll maybe start with the guidebook for the walkthrough. Sorry, I know you probably can't hear this, but the cats are doing something upstairs. I don't know. Jumping on and off the bed. I don't know what they're doing. So here we go. Here's the inner cover. The Wild Unknown Archetypes by Kim Krans. And this deck looks like, I did not expect this. This deck looks like it might be a bit collage-y. Which her other decks are not at all. So for reference, if you haven't seen the Wild Unknown Animal Spirit, which I really doubt anybody has not seen these decks by now, they're drawings, right? With black and white and pops of color. But at least from the packaging and the images on the book, it looks to me like this deck may have some collage, which is not my favorite artistically, but we'll see. We'll see. So we have in the book a table of contents, which is detailed, which is great. So it has some introductory sections called The Ocean Within the Mountain, The Sphere of Influence, Awakening the Archetypes, Understanding the Deck, Using the Cards, and then The Wild Unknown Archetypes. And then the different cards are sorted between the selves, the places, the tools, and the initiations. And there's an entry for each one that looks to be about 2 pages long. I'm not going to read all this introductory material, obviously, in this context. I'm just curious about... Okay, so the Sphere of Influence section of the book is kind of like an acknowledgement from the looks of it, and she mentions Jung there, and different teachers and friends and colleagues. And then we have a section, Awakening the Archetypes. The book is really beautiful, full color. It feels like really good quality. It's nicely bound. She has a kind of etymology of archetype there. And a section on origin. Where do archetypes come from? Explaining the word. And so she describes archetypes and archetypes' intentions, archetypes versus stereotypes, which is interesting. Sacred pairs and trifectas, the idea that some of the archetypes are kind of more connected to each other than others. She has a note on kind of selecting archetypes and the inability to include every possible archetype that might be present, so some of the thought process there. One thing that I'm not seeing that I really hoped for is, people who know me will know that I look for this, some kind of bibliography with references to Jung or texts on archetypes, because it is it's a theoretical concept that has a long, history, right? That a lot of authors have contributed to the idea of the archetype and what an archetype is and what an archetype means, and why an archetype is significant, and so on and so on. I would really prefer that there be more in terms of reference to that background, right? But there is quite a bit of explanation about archetypes. So she includes, I'll just read a little bit. I'm not going to go through the whole guidebook, obviously, but in the section called Their Qualities, this is where Kim Krans describes the defining characteristics of all archetypes. So she has a list of characteristics. And she writes that archetypes are patterns. From the messy chaos of life, certain key images, tendencies, and personalities inevitably surface with or without our conjuring them. These are archetypes. She writes that archetypes are universal. Certain dynamics are so powerful that they appear in every culture, crossing every boundary that we have constructed. If it's everywhere, it's an archetype. In this way, archetypes unite us in the experience of being human. I feel like this is contentious, for sure. Any kind of trying to identify things that are truly cross-culturally, timelessly universal, I think is really difficult, right? Because I think whenever you're trying to identify something like that, there's always the risk that you're identifying things from different contexts as analogous or the same when they really may not be, right? So there's that issue. Archetypes are timeless. Archetypes may come in new images, iterations, and forms, yet their energy has been circulating since the beginning. There are no new archetypes, yet there are infinite new ways the eternal archetypes express themselves. And she keeps going. Archetypes are infinite. Archetypes contain both light and dark. And here she's characterizing light and dark as good and bad. Archetypes use image. And last but not least, even though archetypes use images, no image can ever fully capture the archetype. Another way of saying this is these cards will never quite do the archetypes justice. They simply can't. They are too small in scope and too contained. Since archetypes are about potential energy, there is no way to capture them fully. In other words, any image of the mother cannot fully express all that is the mother, capital T, capital M. She describes archetypes as wanting us to grow. The challenges and wonders the archetypes present to us move us toward our growth edge, toward the unknown, towards a deeper and more creative experience of life. They captivate our minds and hearts, so we are compelled to take the next step on our inner quest. Okay, so she does have some on Carl Jung. She asks, where do archetypes come from? You can't spend much time with this question before stumbling across the work of psychologist Carl Gustav Jung. Though Jung was the first to develop and integrate the concepts of archetypes into the world of psychology and healing, he would also be the first to acknowledge he had nothing to do with their origin. Right? Where did they begin? Where did they originate? And so on. That's obviously true. I do think a reference would be nice. I've looked at Jung's work, and it's hard, at least looking at what is available that I can find in kind of mass market in English of Jung's work. It's a bit hard to know where to start. Like, there's a lot of it, and there's a lot of really big, thick books that traverse a lot of subjects. I feel like some like guideposts in that, where to start with that would have been a useful inclusion, given that the entire deck is based on archetypes, a concept that stems from Jung's work. Okay, the cards. I really like actually the round box. Like my other round deck, the Gorgon's Tarot does not have a round box. The Luminous Void Tarot does not have an oval box. It's cool that they've been able to do this. I'm not sure how it's going to sit on the shelf, or if we'll just have to sit like this. I like to have them kind of up so that they are showing, but that's okay. Okay, so the inside of the box there's a little pearl there. That's nice. I really like about Kim Krans' work in general. I really like the way that she does this kind of predominantly black and white with pops of color. I think it's really evocative and really effective and really beautiful. And I don't see a lot of other, decks that are like that. So the round box has a pull ribbon as well. And it has a kind of diamond in there. The deck is thick. 78 cards. So just for reference to the cardstock, to compare it, I guess comparing to the same creator makes sense. So compared to the Animal Spirit, it's actually not that different. It feels the same sturdiness, the same thickness. It's matte. It's not the thickest cardstock in the world. But I feel like with, there's 78 cards. We're all familiar with 78 cards, right? And with it being round as well, like there's only so thick of cardstock that this like could be while being usable. I like the cardstock. I think these will be good. It has that, the new deck feel when you start to slide them apart and they kind of go in little chunks. The really matte cardstock catches a little bit, but that'll like loosen up with time. The backings have this faceted kind of diamond face on them. I really like that. And something that does is it kind of makes it on the edges look like gray and black and white patterned on the sides, but not in a way that would be in any way like identifying of the cards or anything like that. So I wouldn't edge this deck. I think that's a cool feature, I think. Okay, so the cards are numbered, and each one has a number and a name, and I'm not sure that the numbers have any significance other than just pairing with the guidebook. The number does pair with the guidebook, so that is going to help find the entries. She has them sorted into, again, 4 categories. The selves. I'm just going to read a sentence or two about each just to get them across. So the selves are 1 to 30. These cards represent the many sides of the self that are either awakened or asleep within us. Since they are all archetypal, we all have all of them within us. They may not be embodied or emboldened, but they are there. Okay, so there's 30 of those. Then there's the places. The archetype of place, cards 31 to 50, exist within the realm of the symbolic as well as within our physical, tangible world. Keep an eye on both the literal and imaginal places for clues to interpretation, right? So the places. The tools, think of the many myths and fairy tales that are centered around a sacred object or tool, and that's cards 51 to 70. Okay, and then the initiations, cards 71 to 78, so the fewest, are similar to trump cards of the major arcana in the tarot. They represent the big moments, junctures, and situations in life that carry major significance along our journey. Initiations are events that change us on a fundamental level. So that's good. There's like a bit of a system, which I like. You know, a lot of my struggle to kind of get into Oracle decks was about there not being suits or being any kind of structure in so many Oracle decks, and this one has some degree of that, which I like. So now that we are 21 minutes in, 21 minutes into the first impressions and walkthrough, we can get to a quick look at the cards. And they are definitely, the medium is definitely different. You know, you can tell, you know, very, very clearly that it's Kim Krans's work. But there is some collage style, like photo collage style worked into her usual kind of ink drawing type of work. So we'll just go right ahead with the Selves card, and I'll try to just mention when we shift from kind of one suit to the next for reference. So the mother, there's a hand and a pearl. It looks like an egg in a nest to me. The father, and Jungian archetypes, and like a lot of psychoanalysis in general is pretty heavy on gender binarism. So, you know, it's there. This father card reminds me a little bit, I think, in her Wild Unknown Tarot, which again I don't have, that the Emperor is a tree like this one. So maybe there's a little bit of a reference there. The Starborn. I'm not familiar with that reference. The Eternal Child. The Orphan. The Mentor. It's really beautiful. They're really beautiful. And I do, again, you know, I said I don't usually like photography based kind of decks. It's just not, I mean, I appreciate the skill involved and so on and so on. It's just not a style that I'm usually attracted to. Or the ones that I am attracted to are very few and far between, but I like this so far. It's you know, just little bits here and there, and I like that. The Poet. The Maiden. Yeah, I'm not sure. There's a hand there. The Hunter. I really like that. That's a really beautiful card, I think. You get like this sense of like really sharp focus towards something really specific for a Hunter archetype, which is relevant. The Warrior. The Queen. And then, of course, next, guess what it's going to be? The King. And that looks like it's like a wax seal, maybe, on the hand there. The crone. The raven. The judge. It's interesting for kind of judge or justice, the black and white, but also gray. Interesting. The shapeshifter. The shaman. Sorry, the lighting is a bit different than what I usually use. Normally I'm filming by a window with natural light, but it's so dark and gray and rainy outside that I've got this light, ceiling light on right there, so I feel really like washed out, and the cards aren't showing quite the same way as I'm used to, so bear with me. The lover. The siren. I really like that too. The animal. And that could be a lot of, a lot of different animals maybe. The pilgrim. The mystic. I really like that card too. I really like a lot of these cards so far. I'm excited. I don't know how I just like forget that I order stuff that you can actually, I do know. Amazon has this like archive your order feature, so you can buy something and then you can hide it, and it's like you never bought it. And that's how that happened. The creator. The paintbrush there. I like that a lot too. The destroyer. So these are what she's talking about when she has the piece in the introduction about, cards that pair or cards that form groups. This would be like creator, destroyer, king and queen, and so on. The sustainer. The healer. So like her other work in the animal spirit and the wild unknown, it's a lot of nature imagery. There's a lot of animal imagery throughout. Oh, this one is weird. The comic. And this is a cat with human eyes and a party hat on. Oh, so weird. The unseen. Love that. The shadow. So the shadow, is another one that we hear a lot in the tarot sphere in terms of kind of shadow work, and decks for shadow work and spreads for shadow work and so on. And the shadow is also a Jungian concept from Jungian psychology. So there's that. The self. I really like this card. It has that pearl there in the center. I think that's really beautiful. And the one. Some of these are like, it's interesting, right? And I'm keen to read the piece where she talks about, the process of picking which archetypes to include, the process of kind of coming up with names for them. I mean, some of them obviously like shadow and things like this are names that are kind of already given, but coming up with names for them and pairing the images, I think this is going to be a deck that I definitely want to look at the guidebook for. So that's all of the Selves cards. And so, yeah, you can see on the cards there's these numbers at the top. Those then pair with the table of contents numbers there. And the table of contents distinguishes between the different sections of the deck as well. So that's helpful. Like, it's quite well organized, I think. The heart. That's beautiful. And I want to get sappy. I really love this card because my partner and I bought a canoe this year. This makes me think of that. It looks more like a rowboat in the picture. It looks like one person's doing all the paddling, but it'll be a canoe for me. That feels really special. So now this is the places section of the deck, I should have mentioned. The cave. The cave makes me think, I'm not sure, maybe she'll mention it in the guidebook or not. The cave makes me think of Plato and Plato's allegory of the cave, where the people are trapped in a cave and they just see kind of shadow projections on a wall and believe that is believe that those images are the world, and don't know about the outside world. And I'm going to make a spread related to this and I'll share it later, so I'm not going to say too much about that, but the cave reminds me of Plato, of course. The mountain, and there's a human figure there. It reminds me of a hermit, of course. Really beautiful. The colors in the deck are really beautiful. I really do love the black and white ink with the colors that I feel like Kim Krans' work is known for. The river, gorgeous. The ocean. The forest. Stunning. The desert. Color palette reminds me a little bit of the Rider-Waite-Smith Emperor, with the kind of desert, dry, parched land and the reds and oranges. The bridge. It's a lot to think about in the, bridge, like connecting places and connecting people and bridging differences and bridge over troubled water. There's a lot that these images could bring to mind, I think, which is great. The temple. Really pretty. The dead end. Very effective in evoking that that sentiment. One thing I will say, I'm not used to, like with reading tarot, I'm not used to going so high up as 78 all in Roman numerals. So the dead end is 40, card 40. And it's a XL for 40. I feel like, and in the contents, this is a really minor quibble, but in the contents list, it's Arabic numerals, and on the cards, it's Roman numerals. I feel like, in the higher numbers, I'm going to have to kind of brush up on Roman numerals. I mean, there's not so many cards that they're not going to be easy to find, but I would not know necessarily these high ones. I feel like it's just when the L gets added. I'll have to, It's a bit embarrassing. I should probably know my Roman numerals better than that, but you just don't have to work with them all that often. At least I don't. The Village. The Empty Room. The Castle. That's interesting. The image in the middle looks like an eye with eyeshadow on it, as opposed to an image of an actual castle, which is interesting. The Box. This one makes me think of, what is that, Schrodinger's cat, and whether the cat is living or dead in the box. Box. The Threshold. I like that a lot. The Womb. The Storm. That's amazing. This one, like, that is really, really beautiful in person. Incredible. The Underworld. This Underworld card with the worms reminds me of Edgar Allan Poe a little bit. The Fault Line. So some of them are completely black and gray. The Bardo. So L is 50. And that's all of the places. So now we get into the tool cards. The Flame. Really pretty. The Tear. The Riddle. That's interesting. The Vow. And it's nice, like, obviously, like, working with Jungian or, like, psychoanalytic generally concepts, it can get really, I think, like gender binary heavy, the in terms of something like the divine masculine, divine feminine, or archetypal masculine, archetypal feminine. But a lot of these cards, you know, because there's not a lot of human figures, a lot of the ones that, like, could be depicted in gendered ways aren't. Like the Vow. Like, I think we might think of a marriage vow first just from the word, but this could be, you know, a vow of silence, or any kind of pledge, I guess, which I like. You know, it's open-ended in that way. The Vision. A lot going on in that one. But this one makes me kind of think of path working meditation, because it's so framed, right? The Gem. There's a lot of gems in this deck. It's really pretty. The Ring. The Nectar. It's a flower there. The Medallion. The Kiss. again, I really appreciate, especially like in a deck like this, I really appreciate that is, you know, very gender neutral to me image, the kiss. I will say I noticed some of, and I'm not sure if this is intentional or not. I'm just going to assume that it is. Maybe it's not actually. On quite a few of these cards, the white border is really inconsistent. So you can see how thick it is at the top above the Roman numeral there, compared to how thin it is underneath the text. So not all of the cards have the same white border. That actually doesn't bother me at all. It might bother someone, I don't know, but yeah, it doesn't make a difference to me. The mask. The sword. This one makes me think of Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword a little bit, which I'm not mad at. The venom. The offering. And I like that, like the offering could be anything. Again, like it's not specified what is being offered, and the hand is kind of closed, so it could be a lot of things. The prayer. It feels, it's a quite, you know, thinking about the idea of archetypes as universals. You know, it's a very non-denominational representation, which is cool. The seed. That's a bit, it's always like a bit optical illusion with those lines. The stone. Think of like platonic solids with the shapes a little bit. The mirror. It's really pretty in person. The vessel. This one has, I'm not sure if it's clear, there's a picture, it's a picture of like a torso and the head is not there. I don't know how I feel about that. I'll read the book, we'll see. And the thread. So that is all of the tools section. And now we just have the tiny initiation section, which is the last one, and these are different. So these you'll see have 2 sets of Roman numerals and 2 the keyword doubled. Eros. And that looks like a mouth holding a diamond. Agape. Thanatos. I don't know all of these references. I will look them up. Apocalypsis. Gnosis. And again with these, I mean, it's even maybe more obvious with these because the text is doubled. Reading with a round deck, any kind of reader will have to decide if they want to take the orientation of the card to be significant and in what way, or if reversals and in what way, like what that will mean. Kairos. Alethea, sorry if I'm getting that wrong. And the very, very last, finally, Anima Mundi, the world spirit. So that is the Wild Unknown Archetypes Oracle deck. Very thick. I'm glad that I ordered this. I'm looking forward to exploring this deck. Maybe we can finish off just to see how it shuffles. It's actually, you know what? This, I should have gotten them for comparison. This deck is not as big as the Gorgon's Tarot. I have a pretty wide reach, but I find this, you know, round decks aren't always easy, but I find this to be very easily overhand shuffleable. I don't usually do the riffle shuffle anyway. I don't know how riffleable this would be. Let's just see. Just see. Okay, I can't bend those very well. You could kind of alternate them together that way if you wanted to, or maybe if you have stronger hands than me, you could riffle shuffle them, but I will overhand, and they're a bit sticky, but I find that generally decks that are a bit sticky like this, when they're new, it does go away. So I'm just going to pick one so that we can read one guidebook entry. Okay, so the Unseen, which is card number 27. I'm good on my Roman numerals until the Alpha 50 shows up. The Unseen. So I'll go to page 115 just to see what one guidebook entry looks like. Okay. So the entries are actually quite short, because what you get for each card is a full depiction of the card on the one side, and these are black and white, or grayscale rather. So we get a grayscale picture of the card on one side and a description on the other. So we have some different kinds of keywords. And we have some light and shadow type of words. Okay, so let's see. So for the Unseen, up right underneath the title, you get some keywords. So for the Unseen, the keywords are the spirit, the ancestor, the eternal. Things that are unseen, right? And so then there's these text that goes all the way around on the right and left side. So on the left side of the text, written in red, it says that being graced by the Unseen is a gift. Treat it kindly. Allow yourself to be seen by eternal eyes. And then on the left-hand side, it says, guidance comes in many forms. Don't expect it to be glittery or comfortable. The spirit world speaks the truth. Sometimes it soothes, and sometimes it burns. So, and then at the bottom of the book, it has keywords of when light, when dark, and go deeper. So for the Unseen, it says when light, clairvoyant guidance, whispers of wisdom, so like connecting to the Unseen. When dark, dark looming energy or unwillingness to forgive, so like bottled up, possibly as something unseen. And then the section on go deeper. Oh, this is actually really nice. Okay, so for each card there's a go deeper, and it's a kind of recommendation about, it looks to be kind of a mix of texts, like poems, films, myths, you know, well-known figures, things like this to connect to the archetype. So for the Unseen, it gives us 3 go deeper suggestions in there. King Hamlet, the Three Fates, The Shining. So very different, three very different ways one could go deeper depending on how one interprets this card for themselves. And so the main text of the description for the unseen says, the unseen is just as it sounds. We cannot see it, yet it sees us, watching and waiting with wisdom, both kind and instructive. So that explains the choice of the open eye that's blurry. For the unseen, the idea that the unseen sees us. We feel this presence, sense it, intuit it, and then doubt its existence, though it rallies our attention time and time again. The energy of the unseen may come in many forms: a compelling dream, a sudden insight, a clear voice, a vision or message from a loved one who has passed to the other side. It is natural to fear these communications as they challenge our perception of what is real. When this card appears, your guides are near. The eternal is present. The doorway between worlds is ajar. Listen. The sounds may seem as though they come from a distant land, but they call from your innermost chambers. So that is the unseen. And I like that description. And that is the Wild Unknown Archetypes deck by Kim Krans, published by Harper One. I am going to enjoy getting to know this deck. If you ordered this deck or are interested in this deck or have thoughts about it, feel free to share in the comments below. I would love to hear your initial thoughts. Thank you for watching, and I wish everybody a great day. Bye.